Hello, it's Megan from Manifesting Me. Thank you for joining me. I write, talk about, and teach manifesting. I also have a book available on Amazon.com called The Pocket Guide to Manifesting, and I do one-on-one sessions in which I help people like you, if you want, become better manifestors. So get more of what you do want and less of what you don't. Today I'm going to talk about what I would call everyday manifesting, and it's just what's been going on this week. And I'm sharing it to, just kind of bring awareness to how, again, we're always manifesting every moment of every day because we're always thinking and we're always feeling. And some of what, when we're aware, we can start to connect the dots and go, oh yeah, I was thinking about that. And then a couple days later it happened. Or, I just had a brief recollection of something. And the next thing I know, somebody from my past is reaching out and they're talking about that very same thing. So, these aren't necessarily the big, oh my God moments that knock our socks off. They're just the things that happen. You wake up, you go through a day and you realize a few things you'd been thinking about a couple days before happened. And you're going, oh, okay, cool. So I'll share what's been going on this week because there were just so many wonderful things and that just made me smile. So one of them was our neighbor across the street. During winter time, we don't always see that much of her because I'm not out gardening, she's not out gardening. We stay inside more and, but I'd like to know that she's okay. And I had the thought last weekend that I didn't remember seeing her going in and out of her house or, leaving to go get groceries or anything. And it had me a little bit worried. And I thought, what, I should really reach out. I should just give her a call, see how she's doing. Life happens. I got distracted, whatever. Well, Monday, I think it was either Sunday night or Monday morning, she called me. I hadn't talked to her in a while. We don't usually call each other. So it's kind of one of those, like if the phone rings and it's, our neighbor across the street, I'm like, oh, I got to answer this because I need to make sure that, if she needs something, I want to be available. So sure enough, she was fine, which was great. So it was just a nice way of the universe, of me manifesting the answer I was looking for. And then Jim, he walks our dog twice a day, and it's usually at what a friend of mine would call dark 30. So he's doing it before the sun comes up early in the morning, and then he's doing it after the sun goes down, closer to bedtime. So he doesn't see a lot of people, doesn't really see anyone. It's just him and wildlife and our dog when he's out there. And he's been seeing a couple cats that he, hadn't seen before, and they were up the road a ways. And I happen to know people who live kind of in that vicinity, some neighbors of ours. They're just up the road a little bit further. And so Jim just mentions to me, he said, if you happen to see our neighbors, could you just ask them if those are their cats or, get a little information? And I was thinking, I don't usually see our neighbors. Like it's rare. I think I say, maybe 3 times a year. It's like I'll just happen to be outside at the right time when they're walking by. And I remember there was one time where I was introduced to them when we first moved in here. And I was like, oh, cool. I just met some of our neighbors. And then I didn't see them for 9 months after that. So for Jim to say, hey, if you happen to see our neighbor, but I just filed it in the back of my head. I go out for a walk with our dog the next day. Who do you think I cross paths with? Our neighbors. So I got to ask them about those cats. All right, here's something else that happened actually on that same walk. So I'll back up and say that there's a sitcom that I watch, and I had watched a particular episode of the sitcom a couple days prior, and it was, there was a scene where somebody was comedically destroying a mailbox with a baseball bat. And normally I would look away for stuff like that. Like I kind of, there's some things I just don't want lodged in my brain. And so I don't watch violent things. I don't watch things with a lot of drama. And, even though this is a sitcom, I normally would just either fast forward through it or just kind of avert my eyes and distract myself. But for some reason, I was watching the scene and I was watching kind of all the detail of this mailbox being destroyed with a baseball bat. And I was also very aware that I was so engaged with this particular scene in the sitcom that I made a conscious thought to separate myself. And I said, in my mind, I said, this is a show. That's not our mailbox. So I was very much like not wanting to bring that into my direct experience. So flash forward to when I'm taking this walk where I had seen our neighbors, and shortly before I saw them, I happened to see the mailman. He was driving down our road and he stopped and we chatted for a couple seconds. The very first thing out of his mouth when I saw him was, "Hey, is your mailbox still okay?" And I was like, yeah, as far as I know. And he said, "Yeah, last night." He said, "Somebody went around with a baseball bat and was destroying mailboxes." I was like, what? We live in a tiny, tiny town in Maine, and that kind of thing doesn't happen. And so I just was like, wow. And I immediately knew, I was like, yeah, I was thinking in my head, like, yeah, a couple of days ago, I was watching that. Huh. Okay. Well, and again, I was like, I'm glad our mailbox was okay. Okay, so that aside, so the next thing had a thought this week about Facebook in particular, and one thing I don't really do with social media, I used to kind of be intrigued by like, oh, how many followers do I have, or how many friends do I have, or how many whatever, and I don't really pay that much attention to it anymore. It's just and I'm not on Facebook a whole lot, and certainly not to look at how many friends I have, but but just the thought went through my mind, like, yeah, I wouldn't know if somebody unfriended me. Like, it just wouldn't, I just don't know. I don't know that number, and that's okay. Well, then an experience happened this week that got my mind thinking along the lines of, oh, there's somebody that I'm connected with on Facebook, and I wonder how they're doing. I wanted to just see what was going on in their world and see how, just what they were up to. And sure enough, I go to check them out on Facebook. They'd unfriended me. So that tickled me that I had just like a day before had the thought about that very topic. So anyway, oh my gosh. And then also, at some point earlier this week, I was thinking about a place I used to work 11 or 12 years ago that I left to pursue kind of a totally different line of work, just to kind of get myself onto a different track in life. And I have a friend who stuck with that company and has been with them the whole time. And they've been promoted. They've had kind of gotten increasing responsibility. And at one point they were holding a vice president title. And there's part of me that has thought about parallel universes. Like, I wonder if I stuck with that company, I would probably be a vice president as well. Like, I would probably have that and have that kind of corporate clout. As somebody that I have worked with more recently, called it's kind of like, that pedigree on your resume of working for a really big corporation and, having a title like that. And, and that's not the way that I chose to go, and that's fine. But, how you have those thoughts like, what if I had gone that path instead of the one that I ended up taking? So that was going through my mind. And then I was also thinking, like, could I ever go back and do something like that? Like, would I want to jump into something and be a vice president or be a whatever in a big corporation? A couple days later, don't I get a recruiting call? Which, I get those from time to time, but this was very specifically asking about something I had thought about, and it was just one of those, oh boy, yeah, wow, look at that. More magical manifestations. We think the thought, and the next thing you know, it's appeared. So that was interesting, to say the least. So that's what the week looked like. And in terms of, stuff that I'm currently manifesting, I would say one of the bigger things, and this is so wonderfully commonplace. It's so what one of my friends would call ordinary, is just our cat and our dog getting along, where our dog is not trying to chase our cat. We adopted our dog Gracie about 7 weeks ago, and our cat and our dog have been living separate lives for the most part. They've had some interaction, but it's been really supervised, measured, and actually the dog gave chase to the cat once, which was all it took for the cat to be like, no, I'm not having any of that. So in my mind, I'm jumping to the end result of just seeing them be, fast friends and getting along wonderfully, and it's calm and it's beautiful. Like, those are my big things lately, and it's a good feeling. And so I want to revisit what I said earlier about, this is everyday manifesting. These are, again, not the big, oh my God, knock my socks off kinds of things. These are just the things that happen to us on a daily basis that result from the thoughts we think every day and what we're feeling. Some people might refer to it as coincidences, and that's fine. People who don't really subscribe to the idea of manifesting or conscious creation or intention setting or anything like that. Yeah, they are coincidences. They're happy coincidences that we create for ourselves, and I love it. I was working with somebody on a one-on-one basis not long ago, and was just kind of telling her how, my life feels really peaceful and I love my life, and so there's really nothing big that I'm working on. It's just the everyday stuff, and she seems sort of mortified by that, like, oh, that sounds dreadful, like how boring. And I knew where she was coming from, because there was a time in my life before I was living life, what I'll call life beyond my fondest dreams, where, I was hungry. I was hungry. And I remember that drama and that living on that edge of wanting and not having, and you're waiting for big stuff. You're waiting for the right relationship, the right job, the home life, whatever it is. But they feel like big chunks that need to fall into place. And I remember, and it's drama, and there's an exhilaration to it too, especially when some of that stuff does start to manifest. I remember when I met Jim, it's like, that's a big piece. I remember being offered an amazingly high paying job. It was not the right job. The money was fantastic, but it was the altogether wrong job in the wrong location at the wrong time. But it was that, like, oh my gosh, I could be a millionaire in a year, that kind of a thing. Like, that's pretty huge. And I remember that exhilaration. But where I am now, I'm going to take but out of that. And where I am now, I like that things feel so peaceful. Everyday manifesting is just, for me, it is commonplace, but it's not boring. It's really the sense of contentment from, I know I can create whatever I want, whenever I want, but what I've done with my life in general, overall, over the past 5 years, 10 years, is I've created the life I've wanted to live since I was a little girl. And it feels really good. And so there isn't that hunger, that angst, that, oh my gosh, that drama, so to speak. There's still excitement, and there's still, moments where you're like, oh yeah, we were hoping for that and it happened and awesome. But it's fewer and further between. And that's to me, that's the joy of stepping into the awareness that we are all this powerful. We can all manifest abundantly every day, all day, whatever we want, whenever we want, kind of a thing. And the more we step into that, and the more we have these experiences where things become seemingly ordinary, to me, that's happiness. I don't know how else to describe it. Anyway, that's where I will end this for now. I mentioned in the last video that my sister-in-law, Rose Shieck, is doing a Reawaken Your Vision for 2021. And I will share some information in the description box if anybody wants to register for that. It's coming up on February 7th, 2021, and it is from 2 o'clock Eastern time till 4. It's going to be a Zoom session if you can't make it on that day, but you do want to be part of it and get the information from it. The recording will be available to people after the fact. So it's a workshop type deal, but I'm going to be doing it. I'm real excited about it. And in the meantime, listen, everybody, happy manifesting. Thank you for joining. If you like the video, please give it the thumbs up. Here's why: it helps other people find it. And if you'd like to know when new videos are posted, please do subscribe. And I'll talk to y'all next time. Bye-bye.